Hey there, this is Corey, the Yard Buddha, and it's a beautiful spring day here in the Pacific Northwest. I think it is May the 2nd, and I'm gonna plant some blueberry bushes. Here I already have a couple established ones. This one is probably about 5 years old, and then this one is a couple years old, but I've got a couple more here that I'm gonna put next to this. And you don't want to do these if you have any danger of frost. That's the kind of the biggest worry. And so these naughty people at your big box stores try to sell you these way too early, aka Costco. Bad. And so I probably had these for about a month and have been moving them inside and outside to try to prevent the blooms and the blossoms that were already on there from freezing. So that is the biggest tip, is you don't want to plant these in the ground if it's going to freeze at night. And so normally here our last frost date is about a week from now, but I looked at the temperatures and it looks like it's going to stay into the upper 30s, low 40s during the night. And so I'm comfortable here putting these in the ground now. And what I did realize is that the more plants that you have next to each other and the different varieties that you have, kind of the better the crop you're going to get. I have had blueberries before in another house, and I've noticed that the more that you have, they kind of cross-pollinate, and the bigger fruit that you get. And so what I'm going to do this year is I got two different varieties than what I already have. I think the ones that are in here already are the Duke blueberries, medium to large berries with a mildly sweet flavor. Retains its quality longer than most varieties. Blooms late but ripens early, which protects the blossoms against spring frost, which is good kind of in my climate. And normally your store won't sell you the kind that won't survive in your area. And so today I'm actually going to plant two different varieties. This is going to be a Patriot blueberry, tasty fruit. I'll just tell you what it is. High bush berry that is prized for its luscious blueberries that appear in summer, valued ornamentally for its creamy white flowers in spring and bright red fall color. An excellent choice for using as fruiting shrub or adding to landscape. And I think I'm gonna put this one more in a viewing area in my yard, just because it will have some ornamental value. And I don't grow a whole lot of veggies or fruit in my yard. As you can see, most of this stuff is trees or shrubs, pines and plants. And I did grow this cherry tree here, has some fruit, and then I also do some tomatoes and peppers and a few other things. But I try to grow plants that are going to look good too. And so I mean, even if it loses its leaves during the winter, it's still going to look good. And then the other one I am doing is called a legacy blueberry. This one I'm going to shove a little more into the corner. It just says vigorous spreading deciduous shrub, fruit is large, high dessert quality, ripening in mid-season, good for freezing, best for hand picking, prefers well draining acidic soil in more organic material. So what I'm going to show you here next is how I mix up the soil. We do live in a climate that, or an area that does have kind of non-acidic soil. It is probably about 7 alkaline soil, 7.3. There's a lot of calcium in our water, and so I will show you how I mix up the soil to make it a little more alkaline, and we'll plant them. Unfortunately, a lot of these blooms are kind of fading, and to get the best in pollination, you want these all to be blooming at the same time, and then bees and wind will be blowing the pollen in between the two. And so these probably aren't going to help out these other bushes that I already have until next year. So once they get established, then the bees and the wind kind of blow that pollen. And just like inbreeding, these blueberry bushes can self-pollinate themselves, but they don't always look the best. So if you have some other bushes next to it with different varieties of pollen, then it tends to mix up kind of that genetic factor a little bit better, and it makes the berries better. So we'll show you how we make the soil here. Okay, so what I'm using for soil is basically fir bark. Well, you want well draining, kind of acidic type soil to begin with. I did mix in probably about 2 parts fir bark and 1 part compost. So there's a little bit of compost mixture in there. And then optional, but I do recommend, is to put in some fertilizer. This is just a acid loving plant fertilizer called Ultra Green. It is 1054, and I'll probably end up making another bucket for each plant. So you kind of want the soil to be well established around the root ball. So this is probably just going to be for one plant. And so I'm going to do 1/3 cup of this fertilizer, mix that in good, and then sweet, I got an airplane. I'm always wanting an airplane flying over, and I got it. This is ammonium sulfate, which is definitely optional, but it adds a whole lot more just acid potency to your soil, especially if your soil is alkaline like mine is. And so this is really going to reduce the pH of your soil, so that it gets into the area that blueberries really like. And I added about 1/3 cup of that too. So 1/3 cup of that, 1/3 cup of that, into about 1/3 a wheelbarrow of soil. And we'll mix that up and kind of plant it around the root ball, and I'll show you that. One thing I did want to note is that yep, love my neighbors starting up their power tools, and that I put water, or I hydrate this soil before I plant it around there. So I mix this up good, poured in some water, and I think it just hastens the process of getting everything hydrated around the root ball too. And supervisors supervising, supervisor 2. Yep. Okay, so this is the hole I've dug from the first one, and you'd be proud of me. I just waited for an airplane to fly over for 30 seconds before I filmed this, so hope you appreciate that. It is about twice the diameter of this raspberry bush here. So I'm just going to plant that and then fill it around there with the new soil that I made. I did have to hack out a few giant roots here, which I think are from my old maple tree that my Buddha is sitting on. But if it's from my neighbor's ponderosa pine, I'm sorry, neighbor, but that's how it's gonna have to go. So we'll just fill that in around there, and then I'll show you, well, I don't need to show you the other one. If you guys don't know how to dig a hole, then you need more help than I can give you. So I'll show you when everything's done. Alright, I got these guys planted, and they should be where they're going to be for the rest of their lives. That was the Patriot Blueberry, which is still kind of in bloom, and then this is the Legacy Blueberry, which is kind of dying out a little bit. So I don't expect a whole lot of production from these two this first year. Thank you, Costco. But in coming years, they're going to be happy. And I like to water from these little kind of bubbler sprinklers down low and not to spray on the leaves. And so I am going to probably tap into this guy here and put another 3 or 4 headed tap on the top and use that to water into some more of these things. And that's how I like to do most of my plants. If you see, I like to go from the bottom. So you just want to water these really good at the beginning, and that's about it. So I may show you guys in about 2 or 3 months how many blueberries that I got, if I got anything from these. But I think in the future they're going to be happy. So thanks for watching. We'll see you later.